In the last video we accessed the products table by typing in to the URL where we accessed all of the products, and then we use an ID to find those particular products with that particular category. And I also showed you how we used Swagger to do exactly the same thing. But one thing that Swagger can do that we can't do by typing in the URL is doing a post. So let me take a look and see if I can find an example of a post in our controllers. This one here, now what's this doing here? This is a default. When we make a Microsoft Web API, they seem to want to put that in by default. So let's take a look what that is. It's quite a simple. I think I've showed you before how we can do a basic get using the values controller. In this case, I've just been messing about and finding the square root of a particular number. So we could actually just try that. So in this case, it's going to be the up here. Sorry, is the values controller, and we're passing in a value of say 5, and we'll should be able to find the square root of 5. But that's not what I'm interested in at the moment. So I'll just, what I am interested in is the fact that we have posts as well. Now a post is usually accessed by means of a form, so we usually post values up in a form. So if we want to simulate that, fortunately we do have Swagger to help us do that. So I'm going to get Swagger up and running, and it very nicely summarizes it all of my different controllers. So the one I'm looking at the moment is the values. Now what's that all about? Let's take a look. It's a get, and it says try it out. I think that's going to respond to the default get, which I think return root 5. And let's see what else we've got. Another get for the values we've got here. We can find, for example, we can run that, find the square root of 4, a nice easy one. We can try that out, and that should have given us 2, which indeed corresponds to the get, this get here. But let's take a look at the post. Now, what have we got as far as post in the default Microsoft? Not a lot. I'll just move this out of the way. If we take a look at the post, well, there's nothing happens in there. So the only way I can see if anything is happening is putting a breakpoint in here. And let's see if I can find my post for the values. There it is there. So I might as well just try that and put in a value, a string value it's looking for apparently, so that I can run that, try it out, and indeed that at least has gone into there from the body, means it's taking it from the body of the request and response, I should say, and returning the value. So that's how we do a post using Swagger. Let's take a look at our other controllers: categories, customers, products, and values. We've taken a look at the values just now. We've previously looked at the products. Let's take a look at the categories controller. Now, don't forget, a controller is something which accesses the table, the SQL table, when we're given a URL in either a get or a post. Now let's take a look at this categories controller. I think that looks fairly well straightforward. We've got a categories is the name of the controller. Here's our setting up our context using dependency injection. And here we're finding all the categories, and so you could easily try that out. There's nothing unusual there of accessing the SQL table, the categories table, using the controllers in this Service Web API. Let's therefore take a look at the last one, which is the customers controller. Let's take a look at, oh dear, that seems to be quite a lot more complicated than the other three controllers. So let's take a look at that. Basically what's happening is that we're making a dictionary, what we call a dictionary, and I've got a video on making it one of these dictionaries, which is what we call a cache, and a cache is just a duplication, if you like, of the database, and that allows it to be run more efficiently, to extract the data, get the data more efficiently. It's what we call thread safe way of doing things. Threads, which I'll also show you in another video, is when you have, shall we say, two programs running at the same time. Actually processes they're called. But if you have two processes trying to access a database at the same time, you have a conflict and it causes trouble. So what we want to do is to put our table into this cache, this dictionary, and then use that to access our data. Where is this dictionary? It's in this, happens to be in this customer repository. So let's take a look at that customer repository, and you can see that we are creating a dictionary. Here it is, customer, here, concurrent dictionary, which is going to be called customers cache. So once again, this is going to be more or less a replication of our database. It contains a string being a key being like an index for looking up the particular customers. Now, this dictionary, a little bit complex, isn't it? It's holding a string, which is quite simple, but it's actually holding a whole customer object as well. So where does the dictionary get loaded up from the database? The answer is down here. We're using, once again, a little bit of link. And now what's going on here? Well, this is actually the first thing which happens. Now, strangely enough, it gets placed into an ordinary dictionary. So it places the customers table into an ordinary dictionary, and that ordinary dictionary is then transferred to the what we call the thread safe dictionary, which is our customer cache. Incidentally, when I run my program and I have to keep typing Swagger in each time, it might be a way of, there might be a way of automating that process when I first start out my program, and indeed there is. What I need to do is to I'll just stop it for the moment, and then I need to go to the properties of the particular project. So I right click and choose project properties, I should say, and then in the debug menu, and then I should be able to application arguments. I type in here actually that should be in the launch browser. So now if I run my program, I should find that Swagger will start up each time that I start my application, which indeed is the case. So let's keep in mind what we're trying to do here. We've got our customers table, which we're going to be accessing from this customer controller here. So I'll just remind you what these looks like. We can view the data, and this is our customer table. And what we will do is find all the customers, there are quite a lot of them, but also we'll find ones from Germany, all the customers from Germany, for example. And the way we'll access them, as we said, is from the customer controller. So taking a look at that, we've got the name of the controller is customers, so this is going to form part of the URL along with API. So that should take us to get all of the customers. So let me put a breakpoint down here in the customers controller. I might as well close my Object Explorer looking at the database, and now which one of these am I going to use? A get API customers. So let's see what happens if I try that, click that, try it out with no country there. Oh, it still doesn't seem to mind. It's got provision for no country. Now this thing here, this repo, goodness me, it's starting to get a bit complicated. If we look here, it's been created this thing called repo. Now it looks like it's one of these objects, but indeed it's a well, let's look at that file which is associated with this. It's the customer repository. Take a look at that and let's see where that repo, what happened to that. Let's see if I can look at both of those at the same time. And just to repeat, we created a repo which is of that type, but a little confusingly that's the interface, and it is actually of this type, a customer repository type. And this is all the functionality. For example, loading the cache will take the database and place that into the cache. So we might take a look at that, just that aspect of it. It's becoming a little confusing, I must admit. Just to say that the repo object is what is responsible for creating the dictionary and loading it up from the database. So let's see if we can see where that actually happens. I might just stop the code and take a look in here. So it loads the customers table from the database into the dictionary. So that's the first thing it needs to do. So let's take a look. I might put a breakpoint here somewhere and run that. And once again, using Swagger, it's the get for the customers. Try it out. And single step from here, if it's equal to null, I'm pressing the F11. Well, it will be null to start off with. So what we're doing in these lines, as I explained before, is loading up the dictionary with the database. So customer cache at the moment is null, and let's take a look. I'll just run quickly through that, F11, and now we're watching if the customer cache loads up, and indeed, so basically that's just simulating the database table. So if I take the breakpoint off and single step, and we'll find eventually all of the customers are returned. You might like to try it, single step it, but you might like to try an ID so you can get a customer for all the customers for Germany and run that. well, a bit misleading, but it's this one here we're interested in, API customers and Germany. And when we try that, we should find we get all the customers which are from Germany. Well, that's all a little bit confusing, I should think, using the customers controller, but at least you ought to be able to understand the other three, the categories, products and values.